Hello everyone, I think many of you are already looking forward to the second episode of The Amazing Digital Circus. I'm sure it will be released in the next 2 weeks, but in the meantime, I would like to tell you some creepy theories about this damn digital circus. In this video, we will try to pay attention to each of the characters and tell the creepy truth about each of them. And you will learn as well, who is hiding behind the mask of Cain? Why are Kaufmo and Pomni the same person? What pain has Kinger endured? And much more. And before watching this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and write a comment under this video. I think the best way to start our episode is with some creepy theories about Jax. Everyone has noticed that Jax is a very rude circus resident who never misses an opportunity to hurt or insult someone. It is also noticeable that whenever he speaks, his teeth are clenched. You'd think he'd be a rabbit, and they always have big teeth, but Jax has all his teeth clenched together and he doesn't have a tail. But that's just an interesting fact in case you haven't noticed. I think his teeth are a clear hint from the writer to us that he is saying something, but on the other hand, he is always silent, and all his words are not really spoken by him, but by whoever is controlling him. No one else is so disrespectful to the other circus inhabitants except Caney, but we'll talk about him later. Our theory is that Jax was a very shy guy in real life, afraid to say anything to another person, and expressed all his emotions while playing with virtual reality goggles. After entering the digital circus, Jax immediately became the main target of Cain, who realized that a character as vulnerable and shy as Jax would not be able to resist. From time to time, Cain would taunt Jax in various ways, and when he got bored, he would just turn him into a monster and send him to the basement. And the body of our rabbit was used as a shell for the artificial intelligence created by Cain to at least control everything that happens in the circus, not independently, but having such a loyal and unwavering assistant in the person of the fake Jax. And we'll never see the real Jax again, because no one ever came out of the basement. But much more than Jax, I was interested in Pomni and Kaufmo. Every time I watched the pilot episode of Amazing Digital Circus, I kept thinking that these two characters were somehow connected. As I delved deeper into the episode, I realized some of the connections that led me to believe that Pomni and Kaufmo were the same person. Let's get to the bottom of this together. In the beginning, we were supposed to meet Kaufmo, but for some unknown reason, he was not in the circus. And right after him comes Pomni. You may think that this is obvious to everyone, but look further. The symbol of every circus has always been a clown. Sometimes it could be a jester or a harlequin, but the idea is the same. Kaufmo is the clown, but Pomni is the jester. Immediately after appearing in the digital circus, Pomni begins to see strange images, including a door that is the exit from the Amazing Digital Circus. Kaufmo has also been saying all along that he sees some kind of exit and has been telling everyone else about it, but like Pomni, no one believes him. The fact that Cain can see a way out is not surprising, since he is the administrator of the circus, which means he is responsible for everything that happens in the circus. And since the circus is digital, Cain can create anything he wants in it, but no one else is allowed to. All the characters in the show have never seen or heard an exit, which means that such an ability is only available to a few, and it certainly won't be in 2 circus inhabitants in a row. This, among other things, confirms my theory that Pomni and Kaufmo are the same person. But it's not over yet. It was seen that the monster that Kaufmo had become first attacked Ragatha, although this monster initially came close to Pomni, but for some reason only looked, but most likely smelled and realized that this was the resident he was supposed to be. Apparently, when creating the monster illusion, Cain pre-programs them with the memory of who their master was, and gives them instructions not to attack in any way, but just to pretend. But we'll talk about monsters too, a little later. Remember that Kaufmo was talking about video exits, so he probably went inside like Pomni. And that desk was actually the place where Kaufmo moved into the circus, but unfortunately, that's where Cain was able to get to Kaufmo, so he couldn't escape. And it was that desk that was the only witness to Cain destroying Kaufmo and forcing him to be reborn as a cute clown girl. Sometimes, however, Kaufmo's old memory overcomes the shell's memory, and he remembers various moments, such as the incident near the desk. I think you've noticed that Cain is connected to every character in some way, and it's not just that. At first glance, Cain may seem like a kind and cheerful administrator, but that's not really the case. Cain is just a puppet in the hands of the cruel creator of this circus. Everyone knows that all of the residents except Cain were once living people who lived in the real world, ate real food, and so on. But once in the circus, their lives are practically over. The general opinion is that Cain is an artificial intelligence, which I agree with, but only partially. At the moment when the banner appears in front of us, we see a link that leads to some website where we can easily stumble upon an advertisement for some game, and in the background we can see the outline of a man dressed exactly like Cain. This is a clear indication that everyone is mistaken, that Cain is an AI. And in fact, he was once one of the developers of the game, but at some point his partner decided that in order to implement his plan, he needed someone who could keep an eye on the project from the inside and not give anyone the slightest chance to get out. In short, someone very clever, but at the same time very evil, decided to create a game for VR goggles, wearing which people start to play, but at what point they enter this very game, and the creator himself is watching from the side and orders his former friend or partner to mock all those who have entered, in return for which the person who became Cain can exist quietly in the circus and not be bullied. But how the creator was able to bring his friend into the digital circus is still a mystery to me. You may argue that Cain is always trying to think of some fun tasks for the other inhabitants, but imagine being forced to do some useless and uninteresting activity every day without the possibility to refuse. If you try to refuse Cain, you will be punished immediately, as we clearly saw in the Zooble episode where she refused to look for glowinks. Immediately after she refused, she was immediately torn apart by those very same glowinks. Isn't that weird? And imagine being shown digital food you can't eat every day, or a bed you can't sleep in because there's no such thing as sleep in an amazing digital circus. And everything that happens is really liked by whoever is hiding under the role of Cain, because you can see how enthusiastically he is doing all this. But there is also the possibility that Cain is really a good man who has gotten himself into a desperate situation, and he only has to bully others to live in peace in this damn circus. After all, constant bullying will drive anyone crazy, and eventually the initially cheerful circus resident will become what Kinger has become. By the way, let's talk about Kinger, because this character is generating a lot of interest with his behavior, which seems very strange for such an experienced and old man as Kinger. According to Jax, Kinger is the oldest and longest-lived character in the circus. But how long has he been here? I got insanely curious and started looking, and came to an interesting conclusion. I think you've noticed that Kinger is the longest-lived character and is also a chess piece. So after thinking about it, I decided to find out how long the longest chess game lasted. It lasted 20 hours, but calculating time in hours is too frivolous for a circus, so I thought it was likely that Kinger's life in the circus lasted about 20 years. After all, 20 months is too short a time for the rest of the characters to refer to our chess piece that way. Also strange is a picture that shows the same chess piece as Kinger, but in a darker color. One theory is that this is his wife, who at one point was being hunted by Cain, and in an attempt to stop all this, Kinger got so fed up with the toothy administrator that the latter decided to corner Kinger so much that he had no choice but to go mad, while his wife was under Cain's control and soon destroyed, which could not help but affect Kinger's mental state. And this situation eventually made him as nervous and very strange as we see him now. Maybe Cain has to destroy some of the inhabitants and turn them into monsters, because that makes the main creator very happy, who Cain definitely doesn't want to upset, but how often this happens is still a mystery. Remember at the beginning of the video I mentioned monsters and that we would definitely be coming back to them. During the editing process, I realized that there was still a lot of stuff that hadn't been covered, including some crazy theories about Ragatha and Zooble, and just an incredible theory about Gangle. I decided to split this video into several parts, and while in the next part we'll talk more about Cain, I'll also tell you about the circus characters that weren't in this video, and of course the scary truth about the monsters that you're about to find out. Well, while you're listening to this, write a comment about which theory you thought was the most interesting, and also write your theories. I'm sure it will all be very interesting to read. I wish you all health and happiness, and it's time for me to say goodbye.